Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about that pendulum swinging back to center again, because some interesting things are going on in crowdfunding comics right now. Basically, comics are being produced by a whole bunch of huge names in the 80s and 90s now on Indiegogo and Kickstarter and elsewhere, and it's getting harder and harder for the media and for Twitter to demonize a growing portion of independent comic book creators.
Oh, but they'll still try. It's harder, but they'll find a way.
They're going to try. I don't think it's going to work because a lot of the people that have been throwing shade at those nasty comic skaters are now begging for money themselves because they're not very employable because it has turned out that they are trouble all the way around. They're trouble.
Oh, shocker. Who'd have thunk?
So basically what's going on now is, I feel if everybody's comic skate, nobody is, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just independent comic book creators. And if Marvel and DC, despite their push for 90s style comics, if they're going to kick these guys to the curb, they're going to go make comics anyway.
Well, eventually companies are going to have to make money.
They are. And I think they're starting to see it. I think this push for 90s style comics is a direct result of all of these crowdfunders
these companies have to answer to a larger entity also, like a larger company, and I know for a fact that some of the places they answer to are really concerned about making money.
Yeah, they're probably looking at, Indiegogo and Kickstarter campaigns, and they're probably like, how come these guys are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and you guys are selling like 10,000 copies.
Right, and they own all the main characters. Like these guys, they're the ones that own the main comic book characters, the mainstream, and they can't make the money that.
Yeah.
They got to be like, what the hell? And it's like, well, we don't want those customers, and they're like, bitch, we want whatever customers we can get.
That's where we're at. I think again, this is what is going to dictate the pendulum swing. Is money. Money makes the world go round.
I really do like the name of this though. Giant-sized two-fisted manly tales.
I think I'm going to have to pick up a copy of this.
It's giant size and it's two-fisted. And they're very manly, apparently.
Two manly fists could be very painful in many, many, many ways. So we're
fist them all.
We're gonna talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 259,000 subs.
Yay!
Thank you so much for the support. Now, crowdfunding comics, I think we're going to talk more about crowdfunding projects on the channel going forward and also on our other channel, the Clownfish Studios channel. We're getting that one prepped to do more art and stuff like that. Stories and stuff like that. Now, we've been following the Comicsgate situation for years. I don't consider us Comicsgate, but we
agree with some of the things that they
Right. The problem with being part of any group is it's assumed that you agree with everything.
Yeah, that's why we don't. And also, if you do something, then the whole group gets blamed too.
Right.
So we just try not to say we're in any group because I don't want to be blamed for stuff other people believe, and I don't want other people to be blamed for stuff I believe because they want to paint everyone with a broad brush based on one person, two people, whatever.
Well, because that's how the media thinks. I think in a lot of ways it's like we're all in lockstep and we're all going to think same things and do. And we've always been independent thinkers. This is what has gotten us in trouble. In comics.
Yes, so much.
This is why we don't work in the mainstream anymore. This is why but look, we're fine. And now I think it's safer to come out and do crowdfunding. It's safer to associate with certain people because it's gotten to a point now where comic book Twitter, comic book cancel culture has basically made it impossible for you to make a living in comics unless you work for a handful of vetted publishers on vetted projects with vetted editors and vetted creators.
Yeah, if you want to talk about gatekeeping, that's where this gatekeeping personified.
I mean, look at this. Just in the last 3 or 4 months, these are the places if you listen to Comics Twitter, these are the places you're not allowed to sell your comic books. You can't sell on Kickstarter because Kickstarter's going the blockchain. They don't understand what blockchain is or how it works or the fact that Kickstarter hasn't done it yet. You're just not allowed to do it. Or the
fact that a lot of the payment places they take use it.
Yeah, PayPal's already using it, but whatever. Doesn't matter. That requires research. You can't go to Indiegogo because that's where Comicsgate goes.
Right, that's where all the bad people go.
So even in regards to Indiegogo, it's pretty disgusting. A lot of the mainstream comic book outlets won't cover any Indiegogo comic book project.
Not that it's hurt them.
Right. It hasn't hurt them at all. But you don't hear about, like, you hear about, like, a Kickstarter project that has, like, 15 people working on it and it does, like, $10,000. It's like, oh my God, this anthology is doing so good. It's $10,000. Meanwhile, there's, like, some rando YouTuber drops a Indiegogo project that makes, like, 50 grand, 60 grand first try. And you don't hear about it.
No.
10 years ago, this is how the industry's changed. 10 years ago, these people would have been applauded and other creators would have been looking at them like, how the hell did you do this? We want to do this too.
Yeah, as long as you weren't a main publisher. If you're a main publisher, then they shamed you until you pulled your stuff.
Like Archie, yeah. Gumroad's bad because, again, blockchain. Substack's bad because Nazis. YouTube is bad because YouTubers are always bad. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah,
you're always bad because you're successful and you have a platform and it's not fair. And Comixology, well, everybody hates Comixology because they just done fucked everything up.
They did. They really, truly did.
That one, I'm going to totally give you Comixology. That was like a freaking suicide run.
That was dumb. But yeah, and then what's left is basically you're pigeonholed into what to them. You basically what they're using in them, and where they gatekeep and have control. Basically, everything's bad except for what we control, and that's good. But you have to make sure you know you're after us.
Yeah, and this is what we ran into in comics. This is why we basically walked away from comics, because it was like, we cannot, shove that camel through the eye of a needle, to borrow a phrase. We can't do it because it's like, it was so ridiculous. It's like, oh yeah, okay. Well, if you're an approved creator with an approved agent, and you pitch to approved publishers.
Yeah, the approved, identity.
The approved identity. You might possibly get to work on one of the 6 graphic novels coming out this year for an advance of like $5,000 to $15,000 for 3 years. Sound like a good deal? That's how you become a comic book pro.
That's why a lot of the comic book pros had other jobs too.
Yes. And it used to be back in the day, you could work on comics full time and actually make a decent living, especially in the 80s, 90s when people were.
Well, back in the day, comics actually sold. And they don't now, but you can blame the same people who are, causing the problem.
But this project in particular, now I kind of sort of pay attention to some of these here and there, not as much as I used to. Unfortunately, but yeah, I know so many crowdfunders popping up, but there's so many names from the 90s. Matt Martin, Dale Keown, doing crowdfunding now. Of course, our friend T-Bear doing crowdfunding now, and this blew me away. Now this is Graham Nolan, who worked on Batman, was a big deal.
Yes, I actually knew that name.
Yeah. Also Chuck Dixon, who worked on Batman.
I know that name too.
Mike Barron, Bo Smith, Tim Rosen, Kevin Graveau. I'm not terribly familiar with, but we've got Michael Golden, who is a freaking legend, like a Marvel Comics legend. Butch Geist. We've got Larry Stroman, who worked on X Factor. When I was growing up reading comics, he was on the second team of X Factor in the early 90s, and he was working on Peter David's run. Again, these are huge names. And they're doing
names to the people that in the 90s who bought comics, that they want the comics to look like now, and they want that audience to buy the comics.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we've got Marvel, DC, Image trying to go after that audience. I do believe this is a direct reaction to crowdfunding, because they're like, oh shit, those 90s comics are selling. And
they'll kick their asses. I mean, they don't need them.
$500,000, $1 million campaigns. And I remember when this whole thing started with the crowdfunding and the Comics Gate and the blah, 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 the media outlets and Twitter were like, oh my God, it's just a bunch of stinky old white men in their stinky Nazi comics. And, oh, it's 90s comics. And they were so toxic and misogynistic. Who would want that? We need more Beanmouth. We need more purple Beanmouth characters. Oh my God.
Because we know black people are purple.
Yeah, right. I would love to know where that came from. Honey Mutant Candle Squid talks about that all the time. She's like, when the hell did black people become purple? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I would like to know the origin of.
She probably knows.
I don't know. No, I think she was trying to figure it out too, publicly. Maybe she figured it out.
Maybe she did.
If you're listening and you figured it out, please DM me or something, because I really want to know where purple people came from. I have no idea where it came from. But yeah, I mean, this is just crazy. Like it's safer now. I'm not seeing the pushback that you saw 4 or 5 years ago. Now, a lot of people had to go through a lot of shit. I was listening to Zach. He did a video talking about all the shit he had to go through. I mean, he got it, I think, honestly, worse than anyone. Because
usually the people that come out first are the ones that get it the worst.
And he was one
we've found.
Yeah, now he wasn't. I don't think he was the first one to say
well,
what he was saying.
Early on, I meaning.
But he got big quick, and that was the problem. I mean, they were like the entire comic book industry was gunning for this one guy when he only had like 35 to 50,000 subs, which
I
is,
remember,
by YouTube standards, it's a very small
channel.
channel.
The lengths they were willing to go that came out, like I'm not going to talk about in detail, but like what came out that was being said was insane.
It was absolutely insane. Now, some of that seems to have died down, and I think it's basically gotten to a point now where it's like, yeah, why the hell?
Lawsuits do that too.
Yeah, lawsuits do that. But why the hell were we listening to this handful of salty ass bitches? And a lot of them aren't even working regularly in the industry anymore. Some of them can't get any work in the industry and have to go to crowdfunding just to pay their bills. It's like, why do we listen to them again?
Well, you can go get a job someplace else. Do something else.
Do something else. I mean,
everybody else is told to do and has to do.
So many comics creators that were big in the 90s, they moved on to other things.
But then there's people out there that do other things, and they were trying to call people's jobs up and get them fired.
Yeah. It's insane. I think the pendulum is swinging. I think it's become obvious, and we did a video the other day talking about cancel culture and Twitter, that companies are finally starting to realize it's fabricated outrage. There might be a handful of people and a bunch of sock puppet accounts that are salty ass activists.
Well, they also used to use the whole, if you don't agree with me, it's because you're a terrible person and start your istophobe here. And people originally were like, oh no, I'm not that kind of person. I don't want people to think I'm that kind of person, and they would cave. And now it's become, people are like, you know what? I'm tired of hearing it. Bullshit. No, we're not playing that game. No.
And they're eating their own too. I mean, they
are.
There are people that are were part of that group, I guess. They're going out and they're doing NFT projects and all this other shit too.
How dare you?
But they're approved. So it's become very, very obvious, especially with the numbers that crowdfunding, I think for a lot of people is where it's at, especially with these publishers. I mean, Marvel and DC at any point in time, Disney or Warner could just be like, yeah, we're done, we're out. Mm-hmm. We don't want to do this anymore. Let's just outsource all of our comics to like India or China or something.
Or let's go hire the people that do Wild Indiegogo and call it a day.
Yeah. Do you want to license?
They sell. We want to make money.
Woman? Yeah.
We want to make money.
Yeah, we'll take the Wonder Woman license. There you go, Geeky. You can.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I want to write Wonder Woman.
Nah, but things are changing. Pendulum swinging. We've got bigger names doing crowdfunding now, and basically all you have to do is ignore Twitter, and it's getting easier and easier to ignore Twitter.
I know, it's fun. They don't like it when they're ignored. It's even more fun when you ignore them.
But then a lot of times they wind up blowing themselves up.
Yeah.
Trying to scream louder.
Just get popcorn and sit back and watch.
Yeah, that's it. They almost always, these people almost always blow themselves up.
Occasionally give it a little spritz of gas and just to see what happens, but mostly just sit back and watch.
Well, it's like, you talk about gas, it's like freaking Zoolander, where they're the gas pump. And everybody's like dancing, they're all flinging gas on top of each other, then somebody lights a match, boom, blows the whole thing up. Yeah, most of the people that were the troublemakers, the cancel culture Twitter outrage mob, most of them have effectively blown themselves up at this point because it doesn't matter. And I'm not going to, I wouldn't want to work with somebody like that anyway. I'd be like, I'm freaking afraid to be around you because you.
That's just it. What do you think is going to happen if you have people that everybody's afraid, people are being controlled by fear? The problem with being controlled by fear is that the moment they can overthrow you or get rid of you and not have to worry about that anymore, they're going to do it. So like if, you might be treating someone like shit, they're not going to sit there and constantly take it. I mean, eventually people are going to be like, well, we can't hire them because it for that one person, it damages all these people. It makes it, we can't get stuff done. It just makes sense. Like you can't have someone in your workplaces like that. It just poisons the whole well.
Yeah, it's just crazy. This is like the second or third video we've done talking about this, and we did the one time about Bill Sienkiewicz, too, who's now saying a lot of things that, those nasty comics.
I know, right? I know.
I'm like, and then the thing is that like you were called Comicsgate even if you weren't Comicsgate.
Yeah, I know.
They were calling us Comicsgate.
We get called Phantom Menace all the time, too. We technically don't belong. We have similar ideas about things, but we don't put ourselves in groups like that.
Yeah, and the reason for it is just the logistics, and we always see, unfortunately, when you have a quote-unquote group, a lot of times there's drama in that group.
Oh, yeah.
And people turn on each other and they start eating each other. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. We got enough to deal with.
That doesn't mean we don't like individuals or we don't agree with certain things. We just don't get involved in that.
No, usually not. But
We're too busy. So
we are very busy. We have a lot of things going on. But I just think this is really interesting. I mean, when you've got guys like Michael Golden doing comics, holy shit. It's over. At that point, you've lost. Like, it's over. I'm waiting for, like, Chris Claremont to decide he's going to crowdfund a book, you know, and that's it. It's over. You have no high ground anymore. It's not just a bunch of fringies on YouTube.
we were the chosen ones.
It's people got to make money, right? And if you're not going to give them jobs at Marvel and DC, they're going to go make money.
And then people that want to read that stuff and likes them and their art, they're going to follow them to where they go.
Yep, absolutely. It is a lot of times it is the creators, not necessarily the IP that sell the books. I mean, it's great when you get a combination of the two. You have a high profile creator working on a Spider-Man book, but sometimes people will look at Image Comics. They'll follow Todd McFarlane to Spawn. You know, that's what happens. So pretty interesting. We're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.